Hello, everyone. It's the top of the hour, and we are ready to begin an AMA with SREs. This is a public live stream today, working in an active Google Doc. First question comes from Sid. Sid, would you like to verbalize your question and compliment?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Congrats on fixing the expired console certificates without downtime. That was great. How did you do it?
Thank you very much. It was a well-coordinated effort across several SREs spanning many time zones. It was actually wonderful to see the model work so efficiently. We had SREs transitioning out every 8 hours or so, some of which staying longer, aligning with our 12-hour on-call shifts. So over the course of the last 2 days, we very methodically worked through an issue and opened up a change ticket, incident issue and change ticket. I will add to the doc as soon as I find them. I don't have them up currently. But what we did was we rolled out a chef cookbook change as well as manual configuration settings for all of the console configuration files on both the servers and the agents running on pretty much every host in the production environment. The reason why this was such a tricky situation is we had an expired cert running on the console servers. What was happening or could have happened had any of the connections lapsed or any of these console agents been restarted is this previous settings and configuration would have denied connections to the servers because of the cert having expired and being invalid. What we did was we set some flags to ignore the validity of that cert, and then we synchronized them to fire all at the same time during our maintenance window, which was roughly 12 hours ago, yesterday evening. And they all fired right on time. Agents restarted, and there was no loss of connectivity to the database. The main function that these console agents provide is addressing to the database, as well as the way the database itself advertises which is the active node in the pool. So it was great. Hats off to a number of folks who you can find in the thanks channel.
I'm sure you're having the same thought, but is there like a dashboard of like expiration dates for domain names, certificates, I don't know, DNS records? Probably not, but capacities somewhere.
We do have a static list of certificates that are checked. Most of them in that list are external, which is how this was missed. The dashboard of domain names as a source of truth is Route 53 in AWS for our production account. Capacity, are you referring specifically to our inventory?
Disks filling up and stuff like that?
I don't know about disks specifically, but capacity planning is part of the KRs that work with the infrastructure top-level OKR for the quarter. So we will be rolling out capacity plans for every named service that has an owner and infrastructure. There are roughly 25 or so right now. So if dashboards addressing capacity for each individual service do not presently exist, they will at the end of the month or sooner. I think we have dashboards that show this in aggregate, but not at the per service level.
Actually, we do, and I'll post the link in a minute there. Andrew did the work a couple of weeks ago coming out of the Redis incidents. So we do have a dashboard showing capacity planning for the services that we understand as such today, but we're doing a review of that to improve that.
You can expect it will be a more exhaustive list. Yeah. Thank you, Jerry.
So one of the things about certificates is even better than a dashboard. We simply have an alert that pages us if a certificate is within 7 days of expiry. So there's no need for a human to have to go and look at a dashboard. It will just call us.
Yes, as I previously mentioned, I believe that is only configured right now for external certs that are on public properties, so the GitLab domain space. So generally .com or some subdomain of .com. So one of our follow-up items is going to be to verify this and actually split per environment. Currently, we have one certificate, and it's a catch-all for TLS within internal system for communication for internal systems. So we're going to start splitting that up per environment as well. We have an open item, and we're roughly 50-60% of the way through rolling out HashiCorp Vault, which can act as a certificate authority, and we'll begin using that internally as well.
Cool. Do we have alerts on Route 53? So that's a canonical source for the domain names, but do we have alerting on when they're getting like within 3 months or something like that?
Not that I'm aware of. I can look into that though. I will look into that.
Cool. Maybe also a policy that we do not wait until the last moment, but that we renew them for many years in advance, and that they should never come within 6 months and things like that. I'm asking because like even Azure let their domain name expire at some point. It happens, especially when you start doing multi-year registrations. It takes a while for people to people forget about them because they've been registered for so long.
As an action item, I will ensure that we have transfer lock on for all of our domains. And if we don't have something further out than a year, we'll try to register those out for a minimum of 3 years.
Yeah, it also, yeah, see, yeah, maybe you can even, you don't need Route 53 to look at how long they are registered for. So I bet there's a third-party service that does that for it, that will do that for you. Even maybe a Prometheus plugin or something like that. I think it'd be good to have alerting on that. And like these things happen. I had an urgent issue yesterday where our G Suite thing had to be renewed because the credit card was expired. I don't see any other questions, so I'll ask one because I'm interested. We're doing a big push to increase reliability of our background tasks. There's a lot written about that already. I'm not sure I want to spend a few minutes giving an overview.
Jerry, I'll defer to you on this one. I don't see Andrew on the call. He's been driving this effort.
So we're talking about Sidekick here, Sid?
So what I'm specifically talking about?
Sidekick, the Sidekick queue.
Yeah, I would call. Yeah, I think we decided to not call it queues, but background jobs. There was
Okay.
In the issue.
All right.
Refer to it as.
So yes, I don't have the specific details on what's happening, but Craig Gomez is leading the effort with Andrew and Stan on revamping that aspect or that component of GitLab. And essentially the discussion has circled around make it 10x what it is today, meaning yes, there's obviously been a lot of work that's been done recently to address some of the specific issues, but I think the general feeling is that we're ready to do a big iteration on essentially building a lot of runway and stopping the sort of regular firefighting. Eric kicked that off yesterday, I believe, and Greg just got involved. So I don't have any details. I know there are at least 2 issues with a lot of conversations where both Andrew, Stan, and Camille and a set of other folks have actually started looking at what this might look like. But I don't think there's been anything specific that's taken place yet. But it's obviously a high priority item.
Sorry, I added a link to the chat window. I will add it to the doc. So the action items, there are three by Eric. So first of all is the firefighting or short-term stuff that Andrew will be doing. And then another rapid action is to add capability to kill the psychic jobs. Just to use that as with caution. And the long term is the 10x initiative that Craig is working on.
I'll follow up with an observation that a lot of SREs have made when firefighting these incidents that involve the background processing. It's generally that we have no hard quota or restriction on the behaviors. Most of them not malicious, usually well-intentioned users, some new to the system, unaware of exactly what they're doing, and with unlimited resources in the processing queue, because the runners themselves are waiting to pick up the job. So it's not as though they have unlimited compute resource where they're taking advantage of either their own dedicated runners or their shared runners. The background processing jobs wait in Sidekick, and they are unintentionally creating most of the backlog for the queue size. Whether it's something via API call in a bot, or it's something that's in a GitLab CI YAML, it's difficult. It's whack-a-mole. Don't know which users, don't know which accounts.
You'd think that like if there's more than X jobs for one user, we just start not allowing that user to add any background jobs for a while or things like that.
So a little Craig here. Go ahead, Chris.
It's not the number of jobs, it's the amount of time each job takes, and the fact that, like, for instance, they're using one new customer came in and started using tags heavily, and that caused a different processing timing associated with that. So we've got to figure out how to best articulate the time associated with the job in a way that's effectively communicated back to customers in a limiting fashion. Because right now it's viewed as an unbounded resource, but we clearly do have limits on the resourcing that we have available.
Yeah, and there's been lots of ideas thrown out about the types of limiting that we could research, and there are ideas about observability so we can see what these long-running tasks are. So there's a ton of brainstorming and ideas and issues being generated for all three approaches right now. But yeah, it's very early.
Yeah, probably before we do any limits, just observability, being able to see like what customer is using how much is probably step one.
Yeah, and your observation that we need to limit the number of jobs per customer is valid as well. It's just, that won't get us there alone, I think, based on what we discovered yesterday.
Yeah, with any performance problem, observability first. What customer, what type of jobs, and then allow people to make changes. And then if you find yourself doing the same thing over and over, then automate that away. Cool.
I think it's worth noting that that's actually a general pattern that we're seeing now in terms of our growth now is starting to push into boundaries where limits in the past were not important, and they're becoming more and more important because there are other areas, storage, where we're finding that we need to go and implement these limits. So it's definitely it's affecting lots of areas in that respect.
And why is it that we're seeing this? Is it because we're getting close to some limits and we haven't properly scheduled for growth? Or are we seeing just that people are starting to use GitLab.com in earnest and that's why this is happening? Why are we seeing it now?
I think there are some natural limits built into the architecture of the system, and we're starting to bump into them more often. You could argue that we're starting to reach critical mass for all the decisions that have been made in the product over the last 5 years. And the thing is, these things are tightly interconnected, right? So usually when you start approaching one limit, it's actually hiding the other limits because it's throwing the entire system. And now that we're removing these bottlenecks, we're just quickly running into the next one. GitLab.com is getting extremely busy. And we're also finding that more users and more variety of users means more use cases. So the one that Christopher was referring to yesterday, this user had actually something like 20,000 labels, which is not something that I think would ever expect it. But, I don't know, if there are 50 labels on average, and I just make that number up, 20,000 just the way in which we were consuming labels to select them, we would bring the entire set of labels. But now that for this user, that just became bring 20,000 labels, pick 3. This car, 19,997. So we're more users, I think, is it's not about the number of users, but more varieties of use cases that are starting to stress the system in ways we just didn't anticipate. I think that. Go ahead.
No, I didn't want to interrupt you.
Oh, just making that point that now that we're finding some bottlenecks, but now because of how interrelated the system is, we quickly run. We're finding others, and the thing is, in some ways, the system is throwing itself. But as soon as you remove a limit and we pick up the speed again, then we find the next one. Like 4 weeks ago, it was Redis. We removed that one, and then it just the bottleneck just sort of keeps shifting. But we're able to react way faster than we were just a few weeks ago.
Thanks for that. And when you say GitLab.com is getting busier, what are we seeing? Because I see like 5% month over month growth. Are we seeing something else? Is the usage getting heavier quicker, or is it that?
I think we're just seeing more variety of usage, just because of the number of people. Again, it's not. I don't think it's the sheer number. It's just the variety of uses that people are, of use cases that people are throwing at us, like this 20,000 label case.
Yeah, I think we're seeing some more like workloads of bigger teams. I think we're going from early enthusiasts now to see more bigger teams with more automation on their side, more bots, more use of things.
The case yesterday, I think I think we determined that we didn't know exactly what they were doing on their side, but it looked like they were migrating all of their projects in one go to us, and that just generated an incredible amount of activity. And because apparently they're very heavy users of labels, and they do have bots doing things with labels, this in turn generated this. The webhooks generated these background processes, and normally we wouldn't see this because we don't get these imports every single minute. But yesterday was just,
And Jerry, you mentioned our ability to respond has improved dramatically. One of the main reasons is a process improvement that we've put in place in coordination with support and security. The support team and the security team, and as of Monday, the development team will all have on-call escalations in place, most of which use PagerDuty, some do not. So the way in which we've engaged support in order to reach out to customers who are behaving badly has now a well-defined process. The ways in which we've engaged security to block abusers of the terms of service of the site has also improved drastically. So I did mention that most of the behavior, and it's unanticipated behavior, it's not as predictable as it was as these use cases begin to vary. There are some malicious actors still, and working with security to block them quickly, that's improved also. So collaboration is a good thing, and we're getting better at it.
Cool, thanks.
I don't see any other questions in the doc. Does anyone want to ask live?
What is one thing that would make your day-to-day lives easier?
I will ask any of the SREs on the call to chime in here. If they don't, I do have an answer.
I don't, I can't, it's very hard to think of like a single thing that would make things easier because, easier for us might, be something like, let's not make any more changes anymore. That would make things easier. But obviously we can't do that, right? We have to keep, there's a certain amount of the job is being able to react well to, things that we haven't seen before, especially when we're, dealing with a lot of customers and they have, unique needs and desires on how they want to use the GitLab.com site. I tend to fall back to a saying of, problems can neither be created nor destroyed. You just kind of end up pushing them around to where they have the least amount of effect on what you're doing. Everything's a trade-off. When you make decisions, we all do this, we try to optimize for what's going to make things easier. And then sometimes that means like a year from now, you go back on that decision or whatever. So it's really hard to understand, I guess, kind of what just easier necessarily means sometimes. Sorry for that non-answer.
Fair enough.
From my perspective, the better we understand the underlying application behavior, the workload modeling, and the system architecture as a whole, the better able we are to anticipate pathologies that develop. So having great interaction with developers like yourself is absolutely fantastic.
We've been working very closely with sections of Monitor that are aiming to improve incident management process. And we're looking for various ways we can dog food the product and integrate Alert Manager, Prometheus, as well as PagerDuty and Slack integrations. The one thing that I'm most excited to see roll out as a feature is a way in which timelines are built as an incident and an issue, because there's a manual process, as a cleanup step, once we are done resolving troubleshooting of an incident, which requires us to assemble bits of information that live across multiple systems. Could be a graph from Prometheus, Slack comment from one of the SREs, which Zoom recording was made to record the incident, which PagerDuty pages were sent, and how long did it take a human to acknowledge and respond. So we're working to aggregate all of that into a single timeline view, which will help us get better as we work to minimize our MTTR, which is mean time to repair, which is a key performance indicator for our team. So Josh, Kenny, and Sarah have been fantastic there.
I think I will add to that some things that have happened recently have already had an impact on our daily lives. Continuous delivery has made a significant difference. And then the new workflows or processes where we can engage developers when we're having incidents. Yesterday, we reached out to Tim, and within minutes, we had 4 or 5 developers in the Zoom call, all contributing to helping us understand and deal with the incident. So those things are, I think, already making a very significant difference. And so thank you, because that helps significantly. I think we're at time now.
Thank you, everyone, for your questions.
Thank you.
And thanks for the support.
Okay.